Hey, I'm Marina.
And I'm Emily.
And I've seen everything in the Sex and the City empire 10,000 times.
And I'm starting fresh.
So I'll be woman-splaining the show.
And I'm along for the ride.
But there's a twist. We are starting with And Just Like That and working our way back to the beginning.
So in other words, we're watching it backwards and in high heels.
This is City and the Sex. Welcome, everybody, back. We're doing And Just Like That Season 2, Episode 6 today, Bomb Cyclone.
Fun. Very fun. We love a good snow day blizzard episode.
Again, going in the overall, theme days.
Right.
It's like we had Halloween, now we have Snow Day, then there's Valentine's Day. It's like, why do we need a frame?
Because nothing else interesting is happening in these people's lives.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. They do need to be supported by minor holidays.
By minor holidays and events.
What was your one word for this episode? I would say my one word for this is just a lot. Hyphenated to be one word.
We're having a pattern here of hyphenating words.
It's funny. I feel like in the earlier episodes, a lot was happening and it felt like a lot being shoved into a big bag. This one, somehow a lot happened and I didn't feel like it was all being shoved into a big bag. I don't say that actually in a negative way for the first time.
Okay. Yeah. Interesting. Okay. I think mine is related to that. I think mine is cuts. This for me felt very much like every cut I noticed. Everything, the editing was so noticeable, which is not necessarily what editing is really supposed to be. A lot of scenes that were it's starting to get frustrating. A lot of scenes that were ending too early, cutting away to something and then cutting back to it rather than just staying with it. You know what I mean? Like things like that. It was really getting distracting and on my nerves.
I think especially because episode 5 had a lot of room to breathe, like we spoke about. And then this episode, it felt like there was no room to breathe. Like it was like, we gotta push through a lot of stuff. Well, let's start, I think, with the easier plot this time. And by easier, I mean the plot I hated the most.
Okay.
Which is Charlotte's. Unfortunately.
Ooh, yeah.
I hated this. So we start the episode. Rock's ad appears in the newspaper, which is obviously very exciting. I will say LTW's family calls Charlotte's family to tell them that the picture's in the paper, and LTW's family is posing for an LL Bean catalog. Like it's all 5 of them in bed together.
Yeah.
Which is just comical. But they call to congratulate Rock on the ad.
It's cute. They're excited. Whatever.
Yeah.
And I also like that they've I think it's Anthony, right? Brought over all the newspapers. They bought out a bunch of them. Shout out to when I was unfortunately in the New York Post, and then we bought 20 copies at the Korean grocer, and they're in a basket somewhere in a closet.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, why do I not have a copy?
They're in a basket somewhere at my parents' house.
2, this is me fully pimping you out. Is this for when you won the trivia for Harry Potter on the Today Show?
Yes, this was during my Harry Potter press cycle.
Yep. Too bad the podcast isn't about this, but we're talking to a full celebrity here.
This is the most humiliating thing you could have said to me.
Multiple award-winning trivia on the Today Show. And I've seen the trophies. They're large.
They big. They're real.
They big.
It was in that cycle of, it wasn't for winning the show, but it was all of the booking producers then had our information as local Harry Potter fan. So we sort of ended up on all of these news, whatever, who just needed to do a story because a book was coming out or whatever. Great. We have a local Harry Potter fan. We can just take a cab up to their place and do a story. Right. So it was we were in random places, the CNNs, the CBSs of the world. The New York Post one was, I think, some of the craziest because it's not only is that just print. So there's something sort of strangely permanent about it in a way that doesn't really feel like it with the television, but they came to take pictures and asked us to put on our outfit, our costumes, and bring out the merch, and they did this whole photo shoot in my living room. And the article is a full page in the New York Post, and most of it is the picture of us in costumes with wands looking kind of like creepy, like creeping in on the camera. And it's like, that is most of the page.
Yeah, I'm like, how do I purchase a copy on eBay? For right now, till they fire me, I work at NBC News. And turns out my boss wife was in charge of all the Harry Potter stuff for the Today Show. And I think you guys probably know each other.
No.
And I think that's how I'm going to get the real dirt, which is the visuals
Oh no.
and the evidence
Oh no. Oh
of
no,
your
that's bad.
claim to fame.
It's only funny because I know no one can watch it. It's gonna be dangerous when I know you can actually. I'm sorry. I'm not proud of who I was when the cameras turned on. Okay, that is a different person. That's not me. I'm so sorry. I apologize to America. I became the littlest of shits when the camera turned on. Look,
Well,
fame changes you.
yes. Yes. Well, I'm going to find the evidence. That's
Oh
been
my
my
god.
life crusade. And now that I have access to the NBC archives again,
Oh
I
my
will.
god. I cannot believe. Jesus Christ. Oh,
Well, clearly, Rock has the quintessential Manhattanite child
I
experience
guess
of
so.
being in the paper.
I really can't wait for you to find the footage of my mother correcting Al Roker and the editor of the books when they get a question wrong and she knows that she's right.
My God. I
Yeah.
have to track this down. It's going to
It's
be like at work, people are going to be like, Marina, why haven't you turned in XYZ? I'm going to be like, I am busy doing investigative journalism.
I'm trying to win a Pulitzer.
I'm fucking busy. But anyway, so Rock has their moment. It's very touching. And then out of the blue, Lily's like, Mom, did you make that Nobu reservation for me? Which, first of all, fucking make your own Nobu reservation. Like, you don't need your fucking mom to do that.
Yeah.
She's like,
How
wait.
old is this girl, by the way? Because this is going to be very relevant to this episode.
I will say the actress is 30, though.
What?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is a long pause because Emily's face is cracked.
I'm so fucking broken right now.
Yeah.
You
She's
can keep
26.
talking. I'm looking her up right now.
She's 26. But she's supposed to be playing like 15.
Oh my god. This is frightening. Oh, I mean, she's also not in the show often enough that you could probably swing it as a kid. Like you probably get a teen actor and like do this in a couple hours. This like she's not that present in this show.
I'm also just like, how old is Rock? Because the actor who plays Rock is 12, and that actor looks very young to me. Okay, so the girl who plays Rock is 14, and I would say looks 14. And then Lily is 27 playing 15. Anyway, so that's a little head trip for you.
Yeah, that broke me. I have no idea what we're talking about now. I've just been totally thrown
Well,
off by
she
Kayla.
comes in and says, Mom, why don't you make my Nobu reservation? Which is stupid. And then Charlotte's like, I forgot. And then she's like, can't you go to, and then Anthony's like, can't you go to Shake Shack with your friends? And she's like, I can't go to Shake Shack before I lose my virginity. And we're back to the terrible sitcom plot where it's like,
Exactly.
no, I mean, they try to brush it off by, oh, she's looking for attention because like Rock's getting all the attention and now she's not getting the attention. And it's like, no, I'm sorry. This is ridiculous. And it's not that funny. Even poor Harry, Evan Handler who plays Harry is like trying to be like, oh, these are things I don't want to hear. But like the scene falls flat, in my opinion.
It does. It does. And I think it is exactly what we were talking about in the previous episode in terms of the difference between a sitcom, like this is very much a sitcom plot, and yet it's not sticking the landing versus a sitcom plot that like is. This is that. I can't figure out how old this person is. So I also don't really understand how alarming it is that they just announced this. Like I interpreted this as my first interpretation was that the comic beat the like silence that comes from this of her announcing I can't lose my virginity after Shake Shack was, oh, it's because a kid is saying this and a kid doesn't really understand what losing their virginity means. You know what I mean? I thought that's where we
Yes.
were going to go with this is like she kind of gets it and she like maybe knows someone who has, so she decides I'm going to do it and has made this plan, and Charlotte and Harry are going to tell her like this is what sex is and kind of like teach her. 'Cause it seemed like someone who doesn't know what sex I thought that that's what the joke was, but that's
Yeah.
actually not where this episode goes. It plays it straight.
It's like, and I try not to do this a lot, but in season 1, there's an episode where she cannot figure out how to put a tampon in, and I'm like,
Okay.
"If your daughter cannot figure out how to put a tampon in, maybe they shouldn't be having sex?" And I
That's
agree
a
with
rude
you. I
yeah,
feel like when the scene started, I thought it would be like, "Oh, she clearly doesn't know what sex is, or we have to, like, figure it out."
right.
Instead, now it's like, "No, I'm gonna go bang this dude."
Yeah.
As a 15-year-old, which I have to say is, like, some gumption.
That is a helpful bit of context about the tampon as well, because, like, that also gives me insight into where she is in her in her puberty. You know what I mean? That makes it seem like she's maybe not as prepared as she sort of, like, is trouncing around pretending that she is, you know what I mean? "Yes, I understand, I know what condoms are, I know how to do it." You know what I mean? Like
Which, like, is interesting, and I feel that's what they thought they were doing with this episode. Instead, it does not come across that way at all. Instead, it's just, like, really cringy, but basically what happens is Charlotte tries to go to Lily and have a honestly really thoughtful conversation about, being sex positive and that it's like for your pleasure. Like, remember that it's not always about the guy, like things I would have loved to hear. Instead, Lily's like, shut the fuck up. Like,
yeah,
I don't
it's
want to
just, like,
hear this.
so unreasonably hostile. I understand that from what I've seen of Lily thus far, which is very little, her whole bit seems to be spoiled brat and is like talking back to her parents in this way of like angry teen. And it's like, it's not like teens never disrespect their parents or whatever. It's just exhausting. I find this trope so exhausting. This was a scene that kind of broke my heart because I genuinely thought, I totally agree with you. Where Charlotte comes in to talk, I was like, wow, this is actually a great scene we can see. Is like one of the characters from Sex and the City has now grown up and is teaching I mean, they were grown already, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now has a child and is having to have these conversations with their kid. Like, this is wonderful. And it just completely falls flat by her being like, Mom, shut the fuck up. I know what I'm doing. And then the scene ends, it cuts away.
Yeah, it doesn't strike me as like, "Ew, mom," a thing we've all seen and a thing we've all experienced. It strikes me more as like, this person is, like, radically not prepared for this activity.
No,
Like,
no.
can't even connect about it, and doesn't even have the, like, it's kinda like what we talk about with Che a little bit, where it's like, if every scene is mean-spirited, I'm like, "Excuse you, your mom tried so earnestly to have a pleasant conversation with you about having sex for the first time and making it about you in a good way and
Mhm.
not doing what we would expect, like derp a derp herp, and
Yeah.
then you just being like, ew, get out. I know what condoms are for. It was like, all right,
Yeah,
well,
and it's played as a joke. It's like we're back to the "and just like that" of it all, where characters are responding to things in a confusing way, and the show is written in a confusing way. It feels like the joke was on Charlotte,
yes.
and
They
it's
play the
they
comedy
act
music.
yeah, exactly. They play the comedy music, they end on the button of her being like, "Ew, gross, mom, like, please stop talking," as if Charlotte, like, came in with a banana and a condom and gave a really goofy, awkward, forced sex talk
Talk.
or something. Like,
Yes.
they act and the show acts, the reaction characters and the show acts as if that's what happened, but we with our own eyes, the audience, did not see that happen.
Yeah.
It's so we're back to we're back to and just like that, I
We're
guess.
back to and just like that. Yeah, that was my biggest thing when they started pumping in the comedy music. And I was like, excuse me. When she was talking about having your own pleasure, I was like, this is not comedy.
No, it's not. It isn't actually funny. This is actually good. This is
Well,
actually a good scene.
that was the best scene out of this whole sequence because then Charlotte's, then we get to the snow day and Charlotte's making Coco in a onesie, which, like, when would she ever wear a onesie? She would absolutely be in some hot negligee
Matching
set.
yeah.
But anyway, she's wearing a onesie, and then Lily comes, and apparently the Nobu date didn't work out because Blake's parents were in town. So now Blake's parents are stuck in Connecticut because of the snow. So she's gonna go bone Blake, and Charlotte goes to like hug her, and she's like, "Ew, did you think you were gonna hug me? Shut the fuck up!" and gets out
It's
of there.
so hurtful. It's like so like, this girl is a terror.
Yeah, it's like Jesus Christ. I'm like, sorry, but like your mom could absolutely be like, no, you're not gonna go.
Yeah.
If I did this to my mom, which like when would I ever do literally any of these, like number them off, any of these things to my mother? But let's just pretend my mom would be like, if you put your hand on the goddamn door, you won't have a hand anymore. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like she would I like
Exactly.
my mom would throw herself at the door like, "You are not fucking leaving this fucking apartment."
No, you're
After
going in your bedroom and I
disrespecting me like
will lock
that.
the door from the outside.
Yeah, after disrespecting me like that, absolutely not.
That is so mind-blowingly horrible. Again, it's like it's not like a bratty teen has never happened. It's not like they can't be written. This is just so extreme all the time as like alarmed for Charlotte.
And I keep thinking like, "Okay, you know what? I don't have kids, and, like, maybe one day I will grow up to have a teen as horrible as this." But I can still have teen being like, "Ew, mom," and have it not be this.
Yes, absolutely. You can absolutely if you had Charlotte behaving inappropriately, and like
Yes.
overstepping, then you can have her maybe be nice and then being like, okay, now it's too much or something. But again, Charlotte is being a completely normal person and is being ripped apart by this 27-year-old masquerading as a 15-year-old.
Charlotte and Harry and Rock are at home watching Edward Scissorhands, and wouldn't you know it, Lily forgot the condoms. And here we go, a plot that makes me so, so angry.
Yeah. Yeah.
So angry.
Yeah.
She calls Charlotte. She says, "We don't have condoms." Charlotte does what's correct, which was what a human mother would do, which is, "Sounds good. You figure it out." She goes, "Why don't you send Blake to go get them?" And Lily's like, "I can't send Blake because he's scared the bodega person will rat him out to his parents." Which, first of all, okay, so I don't know if you've ever been to New York City, but how many bodegas are there? Go to a bodega fucking 20 minutes away. Who fucking cares?
Yeah. The already step one is idiotic.
I might buy into if you had a bodega on your corner and your parents go there every morning for their coffee, like they know them and they might say something like that's already crazy, but I could buy into that. But again, New York fucking city, go to a bodega 20 minutes away, fucking figure it out.
Yeah.
One. Okay. So she's like, so we can't also, why don't you go? They don't know you,
Yeah.
Lily. They don't
Yeah,
know what the fuck you
exactly.
look like.
I was gonna say that. Yeah, it was like all this sort of like huffing and puffing, whatever. That send the girl then. What's the problem? The contrivance once again with the it's like the contrivance to get to the insane result that happens makes me so mad. I'm
Makes
so
me
mad.
so mad because she's like, "I thought he would get them," and it's like, "Okay, well, if you think that you're stuck in this antiquated thing of the guys have to get the condoms, then maybe you should just leave." Which is
Yeah.
honestly maybe how this plot should have gone. She could call her mom and be like, "Mom, he doesn't have condoms, I'm scared. Come pick me up." I would buy that
No, I'm
more
scared
than
how
this.
again, I keep giving the show too much credit, and I keep expecting a way for it to salvage itself, and it never gets there. I thought that's where we were going again. When we didn't go in the where we were going, where I thought of like, okay, goofy plot. This girl doesn't know what sex is, and we're gonna explain it to her. Okay, fine. Now we're gonna get to the place where something goes wrong, and she's going to be trapped at this guy's house, and then Charlotte's gonna have to get her home in a bomb cyclone, and that's gonna be
Yes.
the goofy thing. Like that's where I thought against where we're going,
And that would have
not
worked
where we're going.
so much better.
Exactly, and you can still have this sort of thing, and you can have a sort of touching family moment at the end where, like, maybe she's kind of embarrassed and she, like, I wanted to go be this adult. I wanted to show you I was an adult and I could handle it, and I'm embarrassed you had to come save me, and Charlotte is non-judgmental, and it it's cheesy, sure, but it's like, I would have loved that. It would have been fine. If I were Charlotte, this wouldn't have gotten this far, but if I'm Charlotte, it's like, it's time to come home
I'm
because
like,
there's so many red flags here that I don't know what the deal is with this child, the boy, I mean.
so many red flags. Can I tell you, one time I went to a party at my friend's house. She was throwing a big party,
Yeah.
and I lied to my parents I was going to a sleepover. And my parents were like, "Please text us when you get there." And I forgot to text my parents when I got there. Okay. My parents showed up at her house, pulled up in the car. And thankfully, my sister was living with my parents at the time because my sister was in law school. And so I'm at this party and it's a full blown high school party. Okay. My
Mhm.
sister bursts in the middle of the party and I'm like, "What are you doing here?" And my sister's like, you're lucky it's me because mom and dad were going to come and bust in here to drag you out because you didn't text them. Okay. Now, is that crazy? Maybe too much? Sure. But I would buy that as a sitcom plot, excuse me, over this. I would buy
10,000%.
Charlotte being fucking Mission Impossibling her way into this guy's apartment. And
Yeah.
then she gets there and they're just like eating pizza. And Lily's like, please save me. He keeps making me watch, I don't know, episodes of South Park over and over again. Like, this is not what I wanted. Like, that would have been so much funnier and
Yes.
like subversive than what we
Yes.
get.
Yes. Absolutely. Oh my God. You've described the episode to me in a way that I feel like I've seen that. You know what I mean? It's like I know exactly what those beats are, and yet it is also subversive because you would expect something scandalous to happen, but then there's the cute ending. It would have been great. It would have been a great plot.
Instead,
Instead, what do we get?
what do we get? Well, Charlotte's like, good luck. Lily's like, okay, well, we just Googled pulling out. So, and hangs up. And Charlotte's like, okay, I guess I have to go get condoms for my daughter so she doesn't get pregnant, which, like, ugh. So then first she goes to, so she's outside in the snowstorm, very clearly fake snowstorm.
Mhm.
And she's pounding on this apothecary, like, I need condoms. And the janitor's like, we're closed. It's a snowstorm, which, first of all, why is the janitor there? He shouldn't be, but whatever.
Mhm.
We're going to ignore that dumbness. Then
Yeah.
she calls Carrie and is like, do you have condoms? And then we enter another level of hysteria for me, which is Carrie's like, why would you think I have condoms? Like, I'm not trying to like have babies. And then Charlotte says, like, what about STDs? And Carrie's like, you think I have an STD? And it's like, no, Carrie, but you know how you could get STDs? By
Yeah.
not using condoms. Like, it was like the most insane conversation of all time, where it was like this whole setup for her to be like, you think I have an STD? And it's like,
Yeah.
no, I don't think you have an STD, but you should be using condoms or else you will get an STD.
Right. Carrie, I know you are having sex with multiple partners. This is a complete you why is everyone acting like they don't know what sex is?
I
You're all adults. You're a sex columnist. What's going on?
What's going on? It's again, it's like if she was still married to Big, obviously her and Big would not be doing that anymore because whatever, you know.
Sure.
But like what if Gabriel from MI7 is fucking chlamydia and you're
Yeah,
just out here raw dogging it? Like, I don't know.
Carrie has so much not disdain exactly, but just like almost like laughter in her voice of like, come on, Charlotte. You think I have an STD? Please. It's like that is absolutely not what she's asked. I'm mad at everyone.
I'm
I'm
mad
mad
at
at everyone
everyone.
except for like I guess Charlotte for being trapped screaming, can someone give me a condom in the middle of a bomb cyclone?
Yeah, I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. Read a book. I'm sick.
Yeah.
Charlotte manages to get her hands on the condoms and she shows up at this guy's house and Lily answers the door and she's like, I got all the different types.
She got the variety pack.
Yeah, she's like, don't use the heated one because it can cause a yeast infection. And Lily's like, shut the fuck up.
And punches her in the face.
Lily's like, get the fuck out. Even though I forced my mother to go buy me condoms in a snowstorm, like, fuck you. Then she closes the door. Then she comes out for this hug, which I hate.
Terrible. As
Dude,
if that
fuck off.
saves anything. Don't you dare. Don't you have the fucking nerve. And the whole premise of this episode and the panic of getting the condoms is as if they're currently having sex and she's like racing against time before he finishes. It's like that is the level of urgency she has of like, please, I need condom, like banging on the doors. And it's like, what can Lily just like chill the fuck? What is happening? Why are we how did we get into the situation where we're racing against the precious seconds we have before a 15-year-old nonsense boy like finishes? Like I cannot believe we've gotten to this point.
I hate so much of it. And I feel like, again, the writers are trying to justify to us why Charlotte needs to go back to work. Because you'll remember 2 episodes ago, that guy offers her
I
a
forgot.
job at the dealership and she says, no, my family needs me. And so they're trying to justify, like, Charlotte needs to get away from this family. But it's like, I don't need the justification for her to go back to work. I want her to go back to work. This is just making me hate the situation more so in a way that is just upsetting, that makes
Mhm.
me feel that this character is being fucking violated.
Yeah. Yeah. 100% the right word to use. Absolutely violated and assaulted by
And
everyone around them.
and you know what's the most violating? The weird ending shot of her looking
Oh
up
my god.
at the house like, "My little baby's growing away," and I'm disgusted.
I'm hideous.
It's so uncomfortable. It lingers for so
So
long.
long.
I hate it. I hate what it's trying to say to me.
And you can tell they thought they were in their bag. They were like, "Oh, this is so heartwarming." It went from silly to heartwarming. It's like I'm so furious at everyone involved for doing this and then also thinking that they really did something with it. And this lovely moment of her looking up at the window like my baby girl is getting fucked right now. I'm so
I
glad. Like
I fucking hate
horrid.
it. I horrid, 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 horrid. Again, there is a plot here that could work of my baby girl has sex for the first time. This is not it, and I
No,
hate it.
terrible.
Especially given the emotional depths that we go to in this episode, and then this being the Charlotte plot line, which is like, again, I'm not opposed to the dumb Charlotte plot lines, but this isn't even dumb, it's just maddening.
Infuriate. Yeah, exactly.
So before we get into those big plots, and I want to go over LTW really quick because this is just like a weird side quest of a plot that I love, though, that I think is
Mhm.
actually very touching. But
Okay.
LTW, as I mentioned, is in bed with her kids. We have another one of those scenarios where they need to get off the phone quick. And instead of just being like, we got to go by, they
Yeah.
come up with this weird, convoluted scaffolding of like the girl jumps on Herbert's penis and he's quaking. And so they have to hang up to get all the kids out of the room so that Herbert can like come together again because he's falling apart because his little girl fucking jumped on his ball sack.
Right.
Things I don't need. Things
No.
I don't need.
And it's not, by the way, that this is a setup for the episode of like he has broken his penis and we need to like get him medical care, by the way. Like this is just to get him off the phone.
Then we cut to them later. Herbert has a Wall Street event, and LTW has her movie kind of screening, her documentary event at the MoMA,
Mhm.
which are culminating things. And we're back to this plot line of like, womp womp. Who are we going to support? Herbert or
Mhm.
LTW? When again, Herbert has been nothing but the hero husband
Yeah.
and
It's
has in no way shown that he doesn't give a shit about her documentary. So I'm really confused. And I feel like it's the thing that they want to push on us, which is like women trying to have it all is hard. And like sometimes your husband just takes it for granted that you're going to go to his comptroller event. But guess what? He wouldn't have a comptroller event if you didn't throw that and force him to do it in the first place.
exactly. I wanted to get to that because I'm like, she the huffing and puffing over him having the comptroller event is inexcusable to me because this isn't even something that he volunteered to do. This is something that you put on him, and if you would like him to commit to it and do it successfully, he has to dedicate some of his time to it. And to your point, all we have seen of him so far is dedicating his time and support and priorities to her. So, offhandedly saying, I have an event. Can you stop by my event for a little bit? And she has this whole moment of turning around and being like, "Excuse me, why wouldn't you stop at my event?" As if this is like a feminist girl boss moment.
Yeah.
No, 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 no. You don't get to do that with our Herbert. Like he has shown nothing but support and loyalty. Now it's time for you actually to be supportive and a partner. I'm all about, girl bossing. I'm all for it. But you're also a partner too.
I don't buy that Herbert doesn't support her.
Yeah. It's you cannot convince me that this is a real conflict that's happening.
So then we learn that LTW loves to walk to places because for the second time in the same season, her car booking fails because the bomb cyclone comes. And so she decides, I'm going to walk to MoMA. Even though Herbert, again, is like, I could drop you off on the way to my event. And she's like, "No, I'd rather walk." And you're like, "You do not need to do this,"
Yeah,
because all I needed was one line of dialogue for him to be like, "I could drop you off on the way," and her to be like, "If I go with you to the event, I'm not gonna be or if you drop me off, I'm not gonna be able to get out of the car. I'm gonna feel guilty about not coming with you to the Wall Street event."
sure.
Done.
Something
Instead, I don't get
anything.
that. Instead, she's like, "I'm a girl boss.
I
I'm
don't
gonna
need it.
walk my way there." I'm like,
Yeah.
"Okay,
I'm a girl boss. I'm gonna go get, street sludge on my shoes. Girl boss.
girl
Like,
boss."
and she even uses the phrase, "I don't need a shining knight," as if that's what he's trying to do. I think he's made it very clear that he's not condescending her or patronizing her when he offers help. Like, I think we've reached the point now where I don't trust the writers understand this, but we've reached the point now where it's like, it's actually kinda nice when partners get to do things for each other.
Yes. Yes. It doesn't mean he doesn't want you to do your fucking got documentary. I don't buy that they have conflict.
Yeah.
They do
Yeah.
nothing but support each other, as we see later on in this scene. So LTW walks there. I will say she walks there in a fabulous outfit. Of note, she takes her wig off. She puts her wig in a very fancy, like, wig hat box situation. And then she wears this kind of like um balaclava with hat,
Mhm.
poncho, gorgeous.
Mhm.
And I know that they wanted to make her walk to have this shot, but you could have made it more believable.
Yeah. Yeah. Sure.
She walks to the MoMA, she gets in the bathroom, she, takes off all her, headwear for the snow and puts her wig on, and there's this other, African American woman there, and they kinda, like, connect with each other, by looking at each other, and then, she has this really great line where she's like, "We're not gonna let a little snow stop us," and the other woman says, "No, absolutely not."
Yeah.
And I actually really dig that.
It's a cute little moment that once again, I think we worked backwards from.
Yes.
They
Like,
wanted this little interaction without really figuring out how to get there.
the moment sings so beautifully. And then, of course, we have this very touching scene where she's giving her presentation at MoMA and Herbert shows up at her event. I guess, unfortunately, this is what I needed. I needed Herbert to be more aggressive in that first scene of like, you need to come to my comptroller events. You don't come to my comptroller events. But they don't want to make Herbert a bad guy. So
Mm,
instead, he's just kind of like, oh, you're not going to come? Okay. And then he offers her a ride and shows up of his own volition to support her.
yeah, yeah. So the the payoff and the sweet little, like, music cue when she notices him and is, like, charmed by him, like, the sort of sweet moment, it kinda doesn't land for me because I haven't seen him do anything wrong, and I was not surprised that he showed up at hers. And that's that.
And
All
that's
right.
that. He shows up, it's very touching. So then I want to get into Miranda's plot here. Again, this is another Cynthia Nixon directed episode, and I think it
Oof.
shows. I think she does some of her
Okay.
best acting
Mhm.
in this reboot, in this episode right
Mm.
here, because she has a couple very deep scenes that I think are well executed. Um, but we open on Miranda. She's at Naya's apartment, sleeping at Naya's apartment. And they kind of like talk about their divorce situation because Naya's like, yeah, I'm doing my divorce papers at the table. And Miranda's like, oh, I can't even bring that up with Steve. I don't even remember what happens in that scene, but I think,
I think it's just establishing that because she's also texting Andre. Naya is texting Andre about some
right,
other thing. So she's like, it's not like it, when we say amicable divorce, we don't mean painless, right?
right.
There's stuff happening, there's hurt, but they're not heated with each other. So they're able to text and talk about other things. And then that sets up her saying, I can't even talk about divorce with, sorry, what's his husband?
Steve.
Steve. Um, and I feel like I can't because I've like victimized him. So it's kind of up to him to decide whether we're going to get divorced or not. So we're
Right.
in this limbo.
Then we get to Miranda and Che post sex. Poor Miranda's like, "Can we cuddle?" And Che's like, "We both came. Isn't that enough for you?"
Oof. Oof.
And then Che's like, "I'm tired. I want to go to sleep." And Miranda's like, "Okay, I'm tired. I want to go to sleep." And then Che rolls over and just
Oh my God.
starts doing cameo in the bed, which again, it's like, go to the fucking living room.
The
It's the
most
writers.
psychopathic, the most psychopathic thing. I've
It's the
like,
writers being like, they have to do it in the same bed. Why?
why? Why?
Why can't Shay go to the why can't Shay be like, "All right, I'm gonna go to the living room." And
Yeah.
Miranda's like, "Why?" And Shay's like, "Oh, I gotta do these cameos." And Miranda's like, "What the fuck are you talking about?" And then like follows Che and like watches Che do a couple and is like, "What?" Like,
Yeah.
why would you do them while someone is sleeping behind you? It makes no sense.
Yes, exactly. It's so unhinged. There's like rude behavior, and then there's once again psychopathic behavior, which is lying in bed next to another person who's trying to sleep, pulling out your phone and doing cameos and being like, "Hey, congrats on that scholarship." Blah, blah, blah. And it's like I, menacing, sinister.
Menacing. I s I think it's another situation like we talk about all the time, which is that they wanna get to this point where Miranda's like, "Why don't I get happy, Che?" And
Mhm.
Che is like, "What do you want me to dance for you? You know, am I just supposed to perform for you?" Which is like a good point, but again, it's just unearned. This whole
Yeah.
relationship is unearned. This whole moment is unearned. It's completely undercut by this ridiculous cameo thing that makes no goddamn sense.
Yeah. Yeah. There are so many other ways we could have gotten here.
Then we see Che later on living kind of full depression mode. And I'll come back to Che later when we get to Carrie's plotline, but just to kind of wrap up Che for the moment, Carrie calls and they have this whole conversation that ends in like Che, because basically Miranda, in the original fight, Miranda's like, why don't you go take a walk in the park instead of doing these cameos?
Mhm.
And so then when Carrie kind of invites Che out to do something, Che is like, "Oh, yeah, well, my mommy said I need to leave the house." And Carrie's like, "Mommy, who's that?" And Che's like, "Miranda." First of all, that's your friend of decades.
Yeah. This was really shitty. This was a really shitty thing for Carrie to do.
If you and I, let's say, or you start dating my former coworker, and I'm
Okay.
still friends with my former coworker, and my former coworker comes and is like, "Mommy told me I had to leave the house." I'd be like, "Are you talking about Emily?" I'd be like, "Why the fuck is Emily mommy?" Like, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Carrie, I don't know why Carrie constantly is making Che a more important friend than Miranda. And it's repeated
I
multiple
know
times in this
snapping is
season.
probably not going to be picked up on the microphone really well for this audio or whatever, but like I could not have said it better. It's exactly that. Why is Carrie insisting on making Che a more important person in Carrie's life and even remotely on the same level of friendship and importance as these other people who we know go back
Yeah.
many years. But it's absurd. And it's just it's so shitty of her to get involved and then also kind of weirdly take Che's side. Like Carrie never says anything explicitly about Miranda, but Carrie kind of goes, "Oh," and then there's a silence, and Che goes, "Yeah, that silence speaks volumes." And then
Oh, God.
classic, and just like that, we cut away really abruptly, and so we don't really see the rest of Carrie's reaction, but not cool. I mean, Carrie, to your point, should have been like, "Hey, that's my friend."
Yeah. I want to say two things about Miranda before we fully wrap up with her because
Okay,
Carrie is intertwined in this plot a lot. But
okay,
Naya, Carrie, Miranda, and Charlotte all have dinner at Naya's house together, and they all talk about their exes. Basically, because Naya says that she's been texting Andre Rashad still, and Charlotte says she doesn't talk to Trey anymore, which is a nice callback to the original show. Um, and then Miranda and Steve, you know, Miranda talks about like, oh, we won't even talk about the divorce. And then Carrie mentions Aiden, who is also a romance from the past that may or may not come back in this season, as was highly promoted. So Miranda goes over, and I think this is a really dynamite scene that she has with Steve. Again, going to show the roots of these two characters and these actors, and how long they've been in these characters. It's just so well written. And you can tell that Michael Patrick King has a really soft spot for this relationship when he talks about it in the writers podcast. Like, he puts a lot of weight to it and a lot of care. And I think that does show when we have these scenes of the two of them together. It's always really dynamic. So Miranda's there and she's like, I thought you were going to leave the house because he said in therapy that he would leave the house. And she's like, I thought you were going to leave. Like, what's happening? Like, why haven't you left yet? And Steve's like, I lied. And she's like, what? And then he has his version of the Wolf of Wall Street, I'm not fucking leaving speech where
Wow.
he's like, I built this house. Like,
Yeah.
I designed the kitchen, I designed the bookshelves, I designed the living room. I deserve to stay here. This is my house. Even though Miranda did buy the house, she points out, my name is on the mortgage, not your name, because she was the fancy lawyer and he was the bartender. And then he goes, you never wanted to come to Brooklyn. You never wanted to be with me. And you never wanted Brady being their son. And Cynthia Nixon just crumbles. Like, it's just he's yelling also too at this point, and she crumbles in a way that is so very real.
Mhm.
And the way that he turns on a dime is also very real.
Mhm.
Where he's like,
Mhm.
actually, I'm sorry. Like,
Mhm.
I didn't mean to say it like that. I got heated. Like, you cannot leave like this. You cannot get on the subway crying. Like, please, let's just talk it out. I'm sorry. Like, I got heated, which is like really, again, I just feel like a couples fight I've never seen on television.
Yeah, I mean, in line with what we talk about, where we're talking about like divorces and adult breakups and that kind of thing. Yeah, I haven't really seen. I don't know. I mean, I think it also carries an extra weight to it because of the legacy of these characters. Like because they go back so far. I'm not familiar with their relationship, and um, I only know Steve from really these past couple episodes, but I can still feel the weight of how much time they've spent together. And I've seen other relationship fights and breakups and stuff between characters who are similarly aged, and yet it doesn't feel as lived in as these people do in
Yeah.
this moment. I thought it was terrific. I think I'm actually also a little heartbroken I haven't gotten more of Steve, because this is really the first time I've seen him kind of in earnest. Um, and he blew it away. I really was very impressed. He broke my heart. This is really my introduction to him, and immediately I like felt for him, and I felt his struggle, and I felt his anger and his pain. I also want to say that I'm surprised that Michael Patrick King has such affection for this, because from what we've seen and what I've heard and the whole Che Diaz of it all, we talked about this a bit last episode, so we don't have to go into it. It doesn't seem like this relationship or Steve as a character has been given the kind of grace that it sounds like Michael Patrick King was giving it on the podcast. And
I
I think it's a
think
shame.
this is another sequence very similar to Che's TV pilot test, where Michael Patrick King walked away from season 1 and everyone being like, justice for Steve, they've ruined Steve. And he took that really to heart, to his credit. He was like, I love Steve. I've always loved Steve and that actor. And to think that people would think I disrespected him is very upsetting to me. That's why later on in the scene, they're cuddling on the bed. We come
It
down
starts
this
in a
moment in
way
the
that
bed.
I did not like whatsoever, actually.
I don't remember exactly
She
how the scene
finds a
starts.
condom on his night table.
Yeah, okay. Well, I remember that, but
Yeah.
she finds the condom on the night table, and she's like, "What's this?" And he's kind of like shrugs, and then she's like, "Have you been fucking the Whole Foods girl?" Which is also a crazy jump, but whatever. They put that in there because they need more scaffolding. And he's like, "Yeah." And then she's like, "I thought you were moping and you hadn't moved on, and like, what were all these things?" And he was like, "You thought all those things about me, but I've been fine. Like, I'm not a victim. Like, I'm good. Like, you thought I was a victim. I'm fine." And that is Michael Patrick King responding directly to the audience, being like, he's fine. He's not a victim at all. Although you'll see his portrayal in season 1 and you can think for yourself what you think of that.
Mm.
But I will say, I think it's kind of a boss move.
I hated it. I
Really.
really hated it. I didn't buy it at all. I was like, this feels very forced. And now that I know the context of like we gotta quickly throw this in and then make him like not a victim, it rings really less true to me. I really didn't like it. I had a note that I was like, Marina in my notes when this was happening. Because it felt like all of the momentum we had built and everything from the previous scene just came screeching to a halt when she finds this condom. I don't even know if music was playing, but it felt like music had stopped when she finds it. That was the cut, you know what I mean? And it became a little silly and a little like, oh, he's fucking other people. what are we all doing this for? And she's like, this is so silly. I can go get a divorce. And then like walked out and him being kind of like, huh? And like a little confused and hurt. And it's like, I it was such whiplash. I didn't like it. I also don't necessarily think fucking another person is a sign that he is not hurt or not a victim. So I also don't think that that is like particularly compelling to me. I think the scene that we just saw shows me that he is filled with pain. You can't tell me that he's fucking another woman and tell me, oh, like, yeah, he felt that and he was screaming at her and about how he built this house and like how, like all, and then be like, oh, but he's fucking the Whole Foods lady. He's fine. It's like, I I'm sorry. I just don't think that like having sex with some other person actually heals your wounds in that way. And so, but the scene played it as a joke of like, as if it does mean that, and it doesn't. It's just it feels so out of place. I hate that the scene ended this way. I really hope that this is not where we sort of like leave off them for a while, because I can't stand that we had such a beautiful scene that came screeching to a, oh, you're like fucking the kind of like you're fucking the milkman kind of thing. It was
Yeah.
just like, please, as if that means that she hasn't really destroyed him and their relationship and their family. Like that is a real thing that she's done, and that's a pain he's going to feel. We clearly just saw it. So that made me a little mad.
I will say, okay, so I agree with you on a couple things. I will say the first time I watched this, I had the same reaction where I was like, I hope this isn't the last scene, because I do agree that the way that she is like, oh, well, fuck you, is crazy. Like, you imploded this whole marriage, lied behind his back, ran off to LA with your partner, like, forsake your child, like, then didn't want to talk about it. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Right.
I do agree with that. I'm not so opposed to the condom idea, to be honest. I think there's something interesting about being like, "Oh, poor Steve, he must be so broken." And he's not broken. When he had that scene with her downstairs with the yelling about the house or whatever, part of it obviously is him being upset at her and their relationship. But I feel like part of it is him too being like, I'm these are the parts of me that I need to hold on to that you cannot take. Like, you can take our relationship
Hmm.
and you can have that, but you cannot take this house from me.
Hmm.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, these are
Yeah.
the things you cannot take from me.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I,
Like this is what I have left. That's what it rang to me as. This is what I have left. Is this
like,
house?
you can't also take this. So
Yeah.
like, I agree with you in the undercutting a little bit or whatever. I like the idea of where they were trying to go, which is
Yes.
like,
Yes.
Steve is not a victim. He, at this
Right.
point, he's figured his shit out in terms of like, he's hurt obviously and he wants to talk about it, but like, he is his own adult man and he's not just like a simp waiting around for her. Do
Right.
I think it was like most gracefully handled? Like, as usual, no. But I will give some solace in that this is not the end.
Which is that's thank God.
Um, but before we wrap up Miranda, I want to go back to Carrie because this is like the Carrie Che Miranda triangle that infuses here.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
So we start off first with this very comedic scene where Carrie is setting up her laptop for a Zoom with this like TikToker, whatever influencer girl. And first of all, the girl's like, I Googled you. She makes fun of the book Manhattan, which is one of Carrie's books. And
Okay.
then she's like, tell me about the book, which is a completely normal question.
Yeah.
It's a completely normal question for an interviewer to be like, tell me about the book. Like, and for people to pitch their own books where you're like,
Sure.
well, it's about my husband. Instead, Carrie takes a 180 and is like, did you not read it?
Right. And like to be clear, the scene is clearly setting us up to be appalled at the reporter's behavior, or the TikToker or whoever this is. And they are incredibly unprofessional in a lot of ways, and that's fine. But yeah, she jumps the gun a bit. It's like, this isn't 60 Minutes, you know what I mean? She can ask a dumb question, like, not dumb question, but like a basic question of tell us about your book to open up. That's totally fine. But immediately Carrie is like, did you not do any research?
Yeah, I feel
Um,
like there could have been one line where she's like, so Mr. big that's like your husband or something, like
Yeah.
that would even sell me more than like tell me about your book is a normal question.
Also, just about her portrayal and so over the top. It's very Does Michael Patrick King just hate people who are, like, under 35 years old? I just, like
Yes.
okay.
I think that this show is living evidence of that. Or Carrie's like, the book is about my husband dying. The girl's like, oh, what's your favorite lipstick? And the computer slides off the desk and breaks, I guess. Sure. And
Whatever.
Carrie has to get a new one. Carrie and Seema go to the Apple store together and they have
I
this
know what Apple
whole,
Store that is, by the way. Is that really obnoxious to say?
no, please.
That is in the '70s. That's on Madison. That is in the Upper East Side. I know exactly where that is. It used to be a bank. I have bought many an earphone from this Apple Store because I always lose my earphones.
Well, they're at this luxurious Apple store. They have this weird iPhone conversation that I think is supposed to be funny, but isn't. Where
Yeah.
Carrie's like, "My iPhone's old," and Seema's like, "Oh, I keep up with the latest iPhones," and she's like, "Oh, you have the new one?" She's like, "I have the one that hasn't come out yet," and I'm like, "What is this?" And then,
They're not
um,
witty. I actually enjoy a lot when she's not with Carrie. It's these 2 that I'm noticing. I
yeah,
do not like this pairing. I
I
think
don't.
they're just trying to kind of banter, and their banter is never enjoyable to me. It's never clever, but they deliver their lines as if they're saying clever things, and it bothers me. So those 2 I do not like to see together.
I absolutely agree. So they're in the Apple store and Seema proposes the Hamptons to Carrie because she's like, we're both single and I don't want to be sharing a room with a kid's surfboard, which love. And so she's like, will you go to the Hamptons with me? And it's all this laptop fervor was for Carrie to be like, you're going to propose. I wouldn't imagine you would propose to me in the Apple store. I hate it.
Canceled.
I mean, it is a little sweet. I do like this thing of like, will you come to the Hamptons with me? Like,
Sure.
it's a sitcom thing that I like,
Yeah. Okay. All right.
but
All right.
I'm like,
Yeah,
let's
you're
get
right.
through this.
Right.
So then Carrie meets with her publisher, and we discover that Carrie has to go to WidowCon, which
Yeah.
is
It really says something about this show that it ends up being the facetious name that they have for something that is like conference for women who have lost partners, some sort of like long kind of wordy official sounding title. But I genuinely thought it was called WidowCon because like of this show would have something called WidowCon.
yeah,
Do you know what I mean?
I
That
agree.
would be Michael Patrick King has heard of a convention
Yes.
and he calls it widow. You know what I mean? That was
Yeah.
absolutely a thing that would happen in this show. So I was surprised to hear that that was actually the facetious, jokey name they had for it.
To be frank with you, I don't know why they came up with the other. It's like it's something about like life after loss, like a storytelling event, something
Mhm,
like that. And I'm
mhm.
like, why? Nothing would be called that. WidowCon is actually more believable in this insane universe that is and just like that.
And so true.
But we're introduced to Rachel Dratch, which let me preface by saying I've never hated Rachel Dratch in my life. I never will hate Rachel Dratch. Anytime there's Rachel Dratch, I'm happy.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. But Rachel Dratch comes in as the most random character of all time. She's Carrie's
She's not
former.
in the previous.
Oh, no.
Oh,
No,
I
ma'am.
thought she was a returning some this is her power. It's just like I did write Rachel Dratch has breathed life into this entire show because there was
Yes.
the way she waltzes in, I really thought she was like a legacy character or something because she
No.
just the lights turn on, you know what I mean? The music comes back on, all these imaginary things that I'm picturing.
Again, Rachel Dratch is an icon. To your point, every time she's in a scene, I am on board. But she blows in, and they give her the most ridiculous part that makes no sense. She's Carrie's former writing partner from that one time they tried to write a rom com like 27 Dresses in the early 90s, a character that's not in the original show. And the writers podcast, they fucking toot a fucking horn about how they're like, oh, so we wanted to play with the fans to show them other people from Carrie's 90s life they didn't see in the show. I don't give a shit. I don't give a shit. I don't need to know that Carrie worked on a rom com that then she bailed on.
It's not
And that
interesting lore.
and they thought it was to be so interesting that there would be a woman out there who was like, I could have gotten away with everything if Carrie hadn't fucked me over. I'm like, I don't think that's interesting at all.
No,
It
it's
makes me
not.
think poorly of Carrie.
Yeah, it just yeah. This kind of lore is not interesting. It's
Yeah.
kind of like when in Star Wars, they're like, "Oh, did you know that Captain, like, Kahuli actually grew up on the planet Drock?" And you're like, "Wow." And then you know what I mean? It's like it's that kind of thing, and the fans
Yeah.
go wild, and they're like fans will go crazy about Captain Drooly or whatever, and it's like, that's just a dude in the background of that shot in Attack of the Clones. I do not care about, like, where he grew up. I don't care that, like, they've decided to make him gay. You know, and it's like
Yeah.
that congratulations to you. This felt very sort of like Star Warsy, you know. Did you know that the side character, whatever, whatever, or like even Harry Pottery, J.K. Rowling, did you know that there's a Jew at Hogwarts and his name's Anthony Goldstein? Like that's the vibe.
Is
That's a
that
real
real?
thing that she said, by the way. Yes.
No.
Someone literally tweeted something like, "Are there any Jews at Hogwarts?" And I can't remember if it was as a joke or not. I do not remember, but she did respond and say, "Yes, there is Anthony Goldstein in Ravenclaw." She said that with her full Twitter filled chest.
Yikes. Yikes. Well, on to more blonde problematic writers now.
Yeah, I know, right? Jesus.
Rachel
J.K.
Dratch is
Rowling for Vivant,
yeah, for Vivant. Honestly, God, I want the
unfortunately.
spin-off that is Vivant.
It has a Vivant takes like a transitionary radical feminist turn
Yeah.
and gets like the Turf magazine
It's a
spinned off
turf
of it.
magazine, yeah.
Yeah.
Write that episode, Michael Patrick King. I fucking dare you.
Dare you.
I fucking dare you. Okay. So but Rachel Dratch is in charge of WidowCon. And so she's like, Carrie, you can't fail me again. You failed me once. You can't do it twice. Apparently in the writers podcast, they were like running out of space or something. And so they tried to cut out this whole Rachel Dratch part,
Wait,
which
what?
is,
What do you mean running out of space?
I don't know. Like in the edit, they were like, or maybe when they were writing, they wanted to get rid of this character because they were like, it's too much to fit in. And I'm like, y'all are so fucking dumb. Like, this character is stupid, but why would you ever cut an opportunity for Rachel Dratch? It makes no sense.
No,
Anyway,
you've written a character for a fun comedian guest role. You want to cut that so we can have more time of Charlotte banging on windows asking for condoms for her
condoms.
child. Like,
I hate it.
I hate it. Okay.
Also, this whole thing of Carrie with a K, she's Carrie with a K because it's
Oh
not a
yeah.
good time for Karens. Anyway, Rachel Dratch just sells the hell out of it. If it had been
Yeah.
anybody else, I would have rolled my eyes. But
They
Rachel
gave her
Dratch,
stupid ass lines and she made him sing.
she made him sing. So then we go back to that call I mentioned earlier. Carrie calls Che and is like, Che, you're a comedy writer and you're fearless. Come with me to WidowCon. Why? I
Is
don't
that why
know.
she gets her I thought, hang on. That hang on, time out. I thought that she was getting Che to come solely for emotional support because like she didn't want to do this thing but was doing it because Rachel Dratch guilted her into
No,
it.
you're right. You're right. She calls Che for emotional support. You're
Yeah.
right. She doesn't
Okay.
mention the comedy bit, but she says, You're so fearless. You should come, which boo.
So it was just as stupid as I thought it was at
Yes,
first.
yes, yes,
Okay.
yes, yes.
Cool,
And
cool, cool,
then
cool, cool, cool.
Che is like, I don't want to come because I'm depressed from losing my pilot. And then I don't even know how they come to the agreement that Che should go, but eventually Che's like, fuck it, I'm in.
And then we do see a scene where they wake up and there's bomb cyclone happening and Che tries to back out of it like, oh, I bet, oh, and tries to flake and then eventually agrees to go. Again with this friendship being totally confusing to me or like and her, you know, Carrie's so-called like supposed importance to Che. I don't buy that. Che
Yeah.
being like, for you, anything. What?
Yeah.
Marina, if I had to go read something at WidowCon at an event that I didn't want to do and didn't care about, but was being guilted into it, and I asked you, can you come see me in this bomb cyclone? What would you say to me?
I mean, I would be like, I'm absolutely fucking there. I'd be like, sign me fucking up. Sorry.
Oh my God. I love
But I
you.
wouldn't be like, haha, let me think about it.
Yeah.
I'd be like, are you sure you really want me? And I'd be like, all right.
Yes, that's what it would be. I'd be like, are you sure you want me there? Also, are you sure you want to go? Because you don't sound like you're going to have a good time.
See, I'm more self-centered than you.
Okay. Well,
I'm like, if I ask you to come, you're fucking coming. No, just kidding.
Yeah, that's fair. I know I'll be there.
Then we go to that dinner scene that I mentioned of Naya, Carrie, Miranda, and Charlotte. And Carrie brings up Aiden. And by bringing up his name, I guess because Big is dead now, she's like, maybe I should email him. And she writes a whole email to him that she decides not to send. And she loosely explains to Seema that Aiden is an ex and she's thinking about emailing him because Seema comes over the next day to look at Hampton Apartments and like almost sends the email.
Mhm.
Um,
I'm gonna have thoughts on this, but let's get back to it at the end of the episode. I'm just gonna tease. I have some extended Aiden related thoughts and questions for you.
Carrie and Seema, yeah, they keep looking at these houses.
On Airbnb too. Like,
I know.
isn't she a real estate agent? Does she not have a property or a friend or whatever? What are we doing on Airbnb?
I feel like they need an excuse to get Seema in the house to like look
Yeah,
at the email. And it's like, I don't
that's
need any, I literally didn't need any part of this scene, but
no.
it's okay. You could try to pull up the link on Carrie's phone at brunch and then the email comes up and you're like, oh, did you want me to send this email? And she's like, no, don't do that. Anyway,
Yeah, there you go. We're done.
us
Fixed it.
fixing
We fixed
every
it.
single transition. So Carrie wakes up and it's snowing outside because it's the bomb cyclone. And she can't cancel because, as we mentioned, Rachel Dratch will fucking kill her because she already canceled on her once. So she calls Che and forces Che, and then they go out into the snow. Carrie shows up at WidowCon and she's with Che, and they laugh at the widow wand, which is a vibrator for widows.
A specific widow vibrator.
I'm like, widows can't buy vibrators anymore. Like, what is this?
Right, they need like a separate subsection. Like when you're shopping for vibrators, you do the drop down menu to has your partner died? Okay.
Okay, check.
Have you experienced traumatic loss?
I love the idea of your vagina changing because your partner died. But I don't appreciate that there's a vibrator specifically only for widows. I'm like, I could buy the widow wand. What are you going to do? Sue me?
Right, exactly. Well, it's not gonna work for you because you don't have a dead partner,
Oh,
and
right,
she's
right,
gonna
right,
be like,
right.
"Oh, well, this is not working for me. The shape is not working for me."
I just feel like if they're going to make the widow wand, then you need to sell me why it's the widow wand. Like, does the
Yeah.
voice of your partner come out of it? Like, do
Like, you
you?
get it in their shape or whatever. It's like those, like, weird the sex toys that are, like, remote. I don't know if you know about those.
Yeah.
It's like that. It's, like, personalized to your dead partner, like, something fucking horrific like that. Let's just go all out and make it astonishing. I mean, they just gave it a silly name. No, let's make it, like,
No,
shocking.
make it actually go there. But anyway, they go into the big room where Carrie's up next, and this hilarious widow comedian is
Oh.
fucking killing it.
And this is how you know that the jokes for Che Diaz are not a mistake, because this person tells the same exact kind of jokes. This is just a continuing problem with these people.
The jokes are all basically like, "My dumb husband, he's dead now." And my favorite of them is like some I forget how the joke is set up or something, but she's like, "Yeah, I miss having my husband around, but now I get to have ice cream for dinner." And I'm like, "My boyfriend asks me for ice cream every fucking day at dinner."
I actually this is helpful because I did not get that joke. I thought the joke was that he always asks her husband always asked for ice cream for dinner, and now she doesn't have to have it, and I didn't understand because I was like, "That sounds awesome, ice cream for dinner." Now I understand. Okay.
She's saying like, "He's dead now, I get to have
Now I
ice
get to
cream
have
for
ice cream
dinner,"
for dinner.
which why would you not get to have ice cream for like, I don't get the logical connection, and
Yeah.
all the jokes are like all the
Yeah.
jokes are like, "Oh, I miss cuddling with him, but like, now that he's dead, I don't have to hear him snore."
Yeah, exactly. You even delivered it just like
Yeah,
her.
she
It's it's just that, and also it's just, like, very CBS sitcom husband bashing jokes, marriage bashing jokes, "Oh, ball and chain," kind of thing, and it's like, I okay, I guess.
yeah. The way that people are reacting to this woman, like she's fucking, I don't know, George Carlin back from the dead. People
Yeah.
are like screaming, crying, laughing. Carrie's like, I have to follow this woman? Like, I can't follow this woman. Carrie turns to Che and is like, please write me a joke, you're a comedian. And Che actually writes a solid joke. It's something like, uh, you know, if I wouldn't have come out in this bomb Cyclone had I known the Widow one was on back order, which is fine. Then the comedian who's on the Widow comedian on stage makes a joke about the magic wand. And
Mhm.
then Carrie's like, I guess I can't do a magic wand joke. And then goes out and does a magic wand joke.
Yeah,
That was the
so
thing I remember. I don't remember what
yeah.
Carrie's actual joke was. I just remember that she goes out and does a weirder magic wand joke that's stupider than Che's. And she could have easily just done Che's, frankly speaking.
Yeah.
And it hits with a thud. And then she just decides, I'm going to read my book chapter. And she
Sure.
opens it, and everyone's moved deeply to tears.
Mhm.
Even the comedian congratulates her backstage and is like, oh, thank you. I needed a good cry. And she's a hit at WidowCon.
Yeah, I mean,
That's the
whatever.
plot. Oh, well, more
Well,
important to that, though,
Shay.
is she's such a hit at WidowCon that she even inspires Che.
Mhm.
She does have this one line that I actually really do like, which is something along the lines of,
It's like you're never ready to move on. Like, you're never gonna be ready. You just realize that you've outgrown your past self. Yeah.
you're a past self. And Che is very inspired by those words. And that's
Mhm.
why we needed Che to go to WidowCon.
Right.
So, calling back to where we left off Miranda, because this is how the episode ends. Miranda leaves Steve and goes to Che's apartment, and basically, like, they connect where Che's like, I went to WidowCon, and Miranda's like, I broke up with Steve. Like, I mean, they were already broken up, but she kind of explains like what happened with Steve and all that. And she says to Che, like, I wish that we had broken up, but still could have remained like early enough that we could have still remained friends. And now it's like irreparable. And Che is like, well, that's what I'd like to do with us. And Miranda's like, what? And then we get this beautiful mirror of them cuddling in bed the same way that Miranda cuddled with Steve in bed, which I
Mhm.
actually really liked. You know who directed this episode? Cynthia Nixon. And
T Take that to the bank.
take that to the bank. And so they cuddle,
Mhm. And
and
Miranda says something like, "Wow, 2 breakups in one night," or something like that.
I'm killing it.
Yeah.
I don't even remember fully how this ends between the two of them. I know that they cuddle in bed, and then I'm like, is it just over?
I think it just ends.
It just kind of ends, doesn't it? She's like, I'm killing it, 2 for 2 breakups.
Yeah, my last 2 line is, "Oh shit, breakup, let's go." And then the last comment is and just like that line once again confuses me.
Oh God. Well, like, yeah, let's get to that.
Those are
But
my last 2 notes.
long story short, Miranda and Shay break up, and that's over now. Thank God we are free.
Yeah.
Um, and then we get to and just like that. So Carrie's back at her apartment, and she's looking at that email to Aiden, and it says, and just like that, some people are meant to stay in the past. And it looks like she's just going to close the laptop on the email.
Yeah.
Instead, she goes, and some aren't. And she hits send to the email to Aiden, and the episode is over.
Okay. Here are my Aiden thoughts. I first of all, I see this what I'm going to suspect is a recurring problem of Carrie never learning lessons because
Get her.
every episode ends with a sort of, and this is my lesson, which is either a lesson that we've seen her previously learn, or we're going to see her unlearn in the future, right? Like that's what we have seen so far, and we're only on episode 6. So she says this line. If I were to parse a theme from this episode about moving past things, right? She just doesn't seem to like to do it. You know what I mean? She just likes to rehash things. Um and I the fact that she's reaching out to a character who is from a previous show, it's not just even someone from a couple episodes ago she's going to rekindle. It's like we're really at the bottom of the barrel here. It's like we don't know what to do with Carrie that is new. We don't want her to be with someone new. She's just going to hit this email and send to Aiden, who was only set up because someone mentioned him at dinner. Like, it's not like she's been pining for him or thinking about him or something has reminded her of him. Someone mentioned him at dinner and she decided to send an email because what? She's bored. She's lonely. I have no indication of how she actually feels about Aiden as a person. It's just that she seems to be bored. Like, that's how it reads to me. And then the fact that her ending line is, and then I learned to move on, except no. You know what I mean? It's like, all right, if we were gonna land at maybe some relationships are worth rekindling, that's a totally fine place to land, by the way. But then maybe the lesson of this episode should have been involving something else. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like, rather than the theme of it be you don't move on until you have just outgrown, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I feel like, again, they didn't really take a step back and look at Carrie's overarching thing of this season because
Mm.
once we get to Aidenville in the next episode, the
Oh boy.
season becomes very engaging for Carrie because it's like Carrie and Aiden again, and like that's its own tension. So that's, and then you'll see that this season bifurcates in half. Like the first 6 episodes and the last 4 episodes are different fucking planets. Right? Like, so she's dating MI7, who, or the guy, Gabriel from MI7, who like gets her out of the big slump, right? Like,
Mhm.
that's the first guy that she bangs post big.
Okay.
Then what? Is it Bicycle Guy after that? Does she bang another guy in between him and Bicycle Guy? Although she doesn't bang Bicycle Guy, but oh, there's the guy who's sending her the selfies at Vivant.
Oh, yes. Okay, sure.
Who obviously she doesn't bang. So it's
Sure,
just
sure.
like I feel like the season sets it up like we're gonna have single Carrie this season, where
Mm.
Carrie is shopping around. And it would
Mhm.
make more sense, honestly, to me if the season ended with her being like, somebody jiggering Aiden and her being like, and then sending that email and that being the season closer. And then next season is all about Aiden. That
Mm.
would make so much more sense because that's what this feels like. It feels like we're supposed to have single Carrie where she goes around and has very Sex in the City like adventures with, guys, right? Like,
That's a really good point. That's a
instead,
really
we
good
have this half and half, and so she kinda is, like, single for 2 seconds, it doesn't really make sense, and then you're right, out of nowhere, she mentions Aiden at one dinner and is like, "Maybe I should fucking email this guy." Why?
why?
I don't wanna get into it, but
Okay.
it didn't end well the last time they saw each other.
I don't remember the details of the situation and the Aiden situation. All I remember is him as, like, the guy from this movie who I'm pretty sure was married with kids in the movie,
Yes.
and then they kiss.
Well, but that's the thing, which is like back in that dinner scene at Naya's house, she prattles off this horrific exposition that's supposed to make you feel okay with that.
Ugh,
They're like, "So what's up with Aiden anyway?" And she's like, "Well, all I know is that he got divorced 5 years ago and he sold his company to West Elm and he's got the 3 kids, but they all live in Virginia." And I'm like, "Why do you know this much about him?"
yeah, yeah, and
It's
she
not.
has an offhanded, "Oh, the internet. Oh, I'm so, whatever, whatever."
Yeah,
It's
but,
like,
like, again,
"Ugh."
the writers are like, See, it's so funny that she keeps tabs on Aiden." I'm like, "Why would she?" Especially after the events of the 2nd movie where, like, that almost caused a rift in her marriage. Why
Right.
would you ever keep tabs on Aiden again?
Right,
He would just be dead to
exactly.
you.
Exactly. I can't understand the lack of willingness to let go of this person. It from my understanding is not the Mr. Big. Like, if Mr. Big is like her one, her special, right? I understand why she keeps getting pulled into the vortex. Why this guy?
I will say this.
Okay.
I'm for the contrivance of this TV show, I'm not against bringing Aiden back. I actually kind of think it makes sense. Again, I think we needed more single carry time. I would have
Mhm.
been much more interested in seeing women of a certain age dating. That would be
Yeah.
much more interesting to me than her rekindling Aiden. Although, when we get to it, I do think the stuff between her and Aiden is good and worthy enough to be seen again.
Okay.
In the writers podcast, they talk about how they had a long debate about whether to bring Aiden back or not because some of the writers were
Interesting.
actually really against it.
Interesting.
And I will give them some grace in saying I don't think it's too crazy to bring back a beloved character that and Big is dead and they did write him having a divorce. I don't think it's that crazy to explore what rekindling looks like. Like I'm willing to give them that much rope. But it does come out of nowhere. I don't think they integrate it well
Mm.
into the season. We are 6 episodes into season 2. And with that, we should get to our get them for this episode. Emily, what was your
Ooh.
get them? The thing you just could not stand?
It's got to be the Charlotte running around in the snow getting the
I
condoms.
mean,
I,
this is going to
is
be
there
the one
anything else to
time.
say?
This is going to be the one time where I am not going to pick a different one because it makes me so fucking mad.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Lily being like, shut the hell up.
Yeah.
I'm over it. I'm over it.
Violence from that child.
Workplace violence. Okay. What was your release the Kraken from this episode? The thing you want more of?
Steve. I just
Steve.
wanted Steve. That scene was just so fucking good. It made me so sad. Not just for him, I mean, but I mean, it's sad that we don't get more of that. You know what I mean? I'm like, oh, there are people who are capable of writing and acting on this show. What are we doing? And Steve, I understand why he's the fan favorite now. I'm starting to, the picture is becoming clearer to me about the Che Diaz of it all and why fans were so upset about things. And I'm fully on board. I think that was fantastic. And I just want more of that.
My release the Kraken would be that bathroom scene that LTW has with that other lady.
Oh, yes.
She's like,
All right. Yes.
I mean, I wish it was more earned and I wish I had better setup, but I think it's a really touching
It's
scene.
nice. Beggars can't be choosers with the show. Okay.
Beggars can't be choosers. I think it's a really wonderful scene. I think it's it's like a nice refreshing pause to the insanity of everything else in this episode.
Yeah.
And especially stacked up against WidowCon, I'd rather be in that universe than the WidowCon universe. So,
100% agree. Great one.
well,
Great
this
one.
has been episode 6, and we will see you next time. Bye.